Hi, this is Mike again. Today I want to talk to you about a person who is one of the founders of the Global Reset. His name is Klaus Schwab. Born in Ravensburg in 1938, Klaus Schwab is a child of Adolf Hitler's Germany. This was a police state built on fear and violence, on brainwashing and control, on propaganda and lies, on industrialism and eugenics, on dehumanization and disinfection, on a chilling and grandiose vision of a new order that would last 1,000 years. Schwab seems to have dedicated his life to reinventing that nightmare and to trying to turn it into a reality not just for Germany but for the whole world. Worse still, as his own words confirm time and time again, his technocratic fascist vision is also a twisted transhumanist one, which will merge humans with machines in curious mixes of digital and analog life, which will infect our bodies with smart dust and in which the police will apparently be able to read our brains. And, as we will see, he and his accomplices are using the COVID-19 crisis to bypass democratic accountability, to override opposition, to accelerate their agenda, and to impose it on the rest of humankind against our will in what he terms a Great Reset. In this video, we will discuss some of his key ideas and forecasts for our society over the coming years. Schwab is not, of course, a Nazi in the classic sense, is neither a nationalist nor an anti-Semite, as testified by the $1 million Dan David Prize he was awarded by Israel in 2004. However, strangely by October 2021, all reference to Schwab appears to have been removed. But 21st-century fascism has found different political forms through which to continue its core project of reshaping humanity to suit capitalism through blatantly authoritarian means. This new fascism is today being advanced in the guise of various terms such as global governance, biosecurity, the new normal, the New Deal for nature and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, sits at the center of this matrix like a spider on a giant web. The original fascist project, in Italy and Germany, was all about a merger of state and business. While communism envisions the takeover of business and industry by the government, which, theoretically, acts in the interests of the people, fascism was all about using the state to protect and advance the interests of the wealthy elite. Schwab was continuing this approach in a denazified post-World War II context when in 1971 he founded the European Management Forum, which held annual meetings at Davos in Switzerland. Here he promoted his ideology of stakeholder capitalism in which businesses were brought into closer cooperation with the government. Stakeholder capitalism is described by Forbes Business magazine as the notion that a firm focuses on meeting the needs of all its stakeholders, customers, employees, partners, the community, and society as a whole. Even in the context of a particular business, it is invariably an empty label. As the Forbes article notes, it only means that firms can go on privately shoveling money to their shareholders and executives, while maintaining a public front of exquisite social sensitivity and exemplary altruism. But in a general social context, the stakeholder concept is even more nefarious, discarding any idea of democracy, rule by the people, in favor of rule by corporate interests. Society is no longer regarded as a living community but as a business, whose profitability is the sole valid aim of human activity. Schwab set out this agenda back in 1971, in his book, named in English, Modern Enterprise Management and Mechanical Engineering, where his use of the term stakeholders effectively redefined human beings not as citizens, free individuals or members of communities, but as secondary participants in a massively commercial enterprise. The aim of each person's life was to achieve long-term growth and prosperity for this enterprise, in other words, to protect and increase the wealth of the capitalist elite. This all became even clearer in 1987 when Schwab renamed his European Management Forum, the World Economic Forum or WEF. The partnerships that the WEF creates are aimed at replacing democracy with a global leader of hand-picked and unelected individuals whose duty is not to serve the public, but to impose the rule of the 1% on the public with as little interference from the rest of us as possible. In the books, Schwab expresses himself in the two-faced clichés of corporate spin and greenwashing. The same empty terms are dished up time and time again. In shaping the future of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Schwab talks of the inclusion of stakeholders and the distribution of benefits and of sustainable and inclusive partnerships which will lead us all to an inclusive, sustainable and prosperous future. Behind this bluster, the real motivation driving his stakeholder capitalism, which he was still relentlessly promoting at the WEF's 2020 Davos conference, is profit and exploitation. For instance, in his 2016 book The Fourth Industrial Revolution, Schwab writes about the advantages for companies, particularly fast-growing startups in the digital economy. As human cloud platforms classify workers as self-employed, they are free of the requirement to pay minimum wages, employer taxes, and social benefits. The same capitalist callousness shines through in his attitude towards people nearing the end of their working lives and in need of well-deserved rest. Aging is an economic challenge because unless retirement ages are drastically increased, older members of society are determined and don't contribute to the workforce. The economic imperative for having an increased retirement age has many economic benefits. Everything in this world is reduced to economic challenges, economic imperatives, and economic benefits for the ruling capitalist class. The myth of progress has long been used by the 1% to persuade people to accept the technologies designed to exploit and control us, and Schwab plays on this when he declares that the Fourth Industrial Revolution represents a significant source of hope for continuing the climb in human development that has resulted in dramatic increases in quality of life for billions of people since 1800. While it may not feel momentous to those of us experiencing a series of small but significant adjustments to life on a daily basis, it is not a minor change. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a new chapter in human development, on a par with the First, Second, and Third Industrial Revolutions. The Fourth is once again driven by the increasing availability and interaction of a set of extraordinary technologies. But Schwab understands technology is not ideologically neutral, as some like to claim. He says technologies and societies shape each other. After all, technologies are tied up in how we know things, how we make decisions, and how we think about ourselves and each other. They are connected to our identities, worldviews, and potential futures. This involves nuclear technologies to the space race, smartphones, social media, cars, medicine, and infrastructure. The meaning of technologies makes them political. Even the concept of a developed nation implicitly rests on the adoption of technologies and what they mean for us, economically and socially. Technology, for the capitalists behind it, has never been about social good but purely about profit. Schwab makes it quite clear that the same remains true of his Fourth Industrial Revolution. He explains the Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies are truly disruptive. They upend existing ways of sensing, calculating, organizing, acting, and delivering. They represent entirely new ways of creating value for organizations and citizens. In case the meaning of creating value was not clear, he gives some examples. Drones represent a new type of cost-cutting employee working among us and performing jobs that once involved real people. The use of ever smarter algorithms is rapidly extending employee productivity. For example, the use of chatbots is used to augment and replace live chat support for customer interactions. Schwab goes into some detail about the cost-cutting, profit-boosting marvels of his brave new world in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He explains, sooner than most anticipate, the work of professions as different as lawyers, financial analysts, doctors, journalists, accountants, insurance underwriters, or librarians may be partly or completely automated. The technology is progressing so fast that Christian Hammond, co-founder of Narrative Science, forecasts that by the mid-2020s, 90% of news could be generated by an algorithm. Most of it is without any kind of human intervention, apart from the design of the algorithm, of course. It is this economic imperative that informs Schwab's enthusiasm for a revolution that is fundamentally changing the way we live, work, and relate to one another. He is inspired when he considers the unlimited possibilities of having billions of people connected by mobile devices, which would give rise to unprecedented processing power, storage capabilities, and knowledge access. He thinks about the staggering confluence of emerging technology breakthroughs, covering wide-ranging fields such as artificial intelligence (AI), robotics, the Internet of Things (IoT), autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, materials science, energy storage, and quantum computing, to name a few. Many of these innovations are in their infancy, but they are already reaching an inflection point in their development as they build on and amplify each other in a fusion of technologies across the physical, digital and biological worlds. He also looks forward to more online education, involving the use of virtual and augmented reality to dramatically improve educational outcomes, to sensors installed in homes, clothes and accessories, cities, transport, and energy networks, and to smart cities, with their all-important data platforms. All things will be smart and connected to the internet according to Schwab. This will extend to animals, as sensors wired together will communicate to each other through a mobile phone network. Schwab loves the idea of smart cell factories which could enable the accelerated generation of vaccines and big data technologies. Isn't this what happened with the mRNA vaccines? Aren't these smart cell factories being injected into our bodies to fight the COVID virus? These new medicines, he assures us, will deliver new and innovative ways to serve citizens and customers, and we will have to stop objecting to businesses profiting from harnessing and selling information about every aspect of our personal lives. According to Schwab, We will need to establish trust in the data and algorithms used to make decisions. This will be vital. Citizen concerns over privacy and establishing accountability in business and legal structures will require adjustments in thinking. At the end of the day, all this technological excitement revolves purely around profit, or value as Schwab prefers to term it. Thus, blockchain technology will be fantastic and provoke an explosion in tradable assets, as all kinds of value exchange can be hosted on the blockchain. The use of distributed ledger technology could be the driving force behind massive flows of value in digital products and services, providing secure digital identities that can make new markets accessible to anyone connected to the Internet. In general, the interest in the Fourth Industrial Revolution for the ruling business elite is that it will create entirely new sources of value. It will give rise to ecosystems of value creation that are impossible to imagine with a mindset stuck in the Third Industrial Revolution. The technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution rolled out via 5G pose unprecedented threats to our freedom. The tools of the Fourth Industrial Revolution enable new forms of surveillance and other means of control that run counter to healthy, open societies. But this does not stop him from presenting them in a positive light, as when Schwab declares that public crime is likely to decrease due to the convergence of sensors, cameras, AI, and facial recognition software. He describes with some relish how these technologies can intrude into the hitherto private space of our minds, reading our thoughts and influencing our behavior. As capabilities in this area improve, the temptation for law enforcement agencies and courts to use techniques to determine the likelihood of criminal activity, assess guilt, or even possibly retrieve memories directly from people's brains will increase. Even crossing a national border might one day involve a detailed brain scan to assess an individual's security risk. There are times when the WEF chief gets carried away by his passion for a sci-fi future in which long-distance human space travel and nuclear fusion are commonplace, and in which the next trending business model might involve someone trading access to his or her thoughts for the time-saving option of typing a social media post by thought alone. Talk of space tourism under the title The Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Final Frontier is almost funny, as is his suggestion that a world full of drones offers a world full of possibilities. But the further the reader progresses into the world depicted in Schwab's books, the less of a laughing matter it all seems. The truth is that this highly influential figure, at the center of the new global order currently being established, is an out-and-out transhumanist who dreams of an end to natural healthy human life and community. Schwab repeats this message time and time again as if to be sure we have been duly warned. The mind-boggling innovations triggered by the Fourth Industrial Revolution, from biotechnology to AI, are redefining what it means to be human. The future will challenge our understanding of what it means to be human, from both a biological and a social standpoint. Already, advances in neurotechnology and biotechnologies are forcing us to question what it means to be human. Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies will not stop at becoming part of the physical world around us. They will become part of us. Indeed, some of us already feel that our smartphones have become an extension of ourselves. Today's external devices, from wearable computers to virtual reality headsets, will almost certainly become implantable in our bodies and brains. Exoskeletons and prosthetics will increase our physical power, while advances in neurotechnology will enhance our cognitive abilities. We will become better able to manipulate our own genes and those of our children. These developments raise profound questions. Where do we draw the line between humans and machines? What does it mean to be human? A whole section of his book is devoted to the theme, altering the human being. Here he drools over the ability of new technologies to literally become part of us and invokes a cyborg future involving curious mixes of digital and analog life that will redefine our very natures. These technologies will operate within our own biology and change how we interface with the world. They are capable of crossing the boundaries of body and mind, enhancing our physical abilities, and even having a lasting impact on life itself. No violation seems to go too far for Schwab, who dreams of active implantable microchips that break the skin barrier of our bodies. For example, smart tattoos, biological computing, and custom-designed organisms were some he mentioned. He is delighted to report that sensors, memory switches, and circuits can be encoded in common human gut bacteria, that smart dust, arrays of full computers with antennas, each much smaller than a grain of sand, can now organize themselves inside the body, and that implanted devices will likely also help to communicate thoughts normally expressed verbally through a built-in smartphone, and potentially unexpressed thoughts or moods by reading brain waves and other signals. This vision of the New World Order has been embraced by so many of the upper 1%. The vision of the new humanity reminds us of the passages in Matthew 24:22 where it says, "If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened." The goal of the transhumanist movement is to replace our human aspects with cyborg parts and eliminate our soul, or that part of us that makes us human. Should Schwab's ideas be implemented, we are going a long way to make this happen. I can't help but believe that Satan, the angel of light, is behind this idea, as it would eliminate God's creation from the earth. To learn more about the ideas of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, go to Nehemiah Reset's website at nehemiahreset.org and click on the Training and Resource tab, and under this tab click on the Cultural Issues image to see more of the cultural issue videos. You can also watch these videos on YouTube, Rumble, and on the Cultural Issue podcast.